cycling fans everywhere. I am Jake Sanderson. Welcome back to the Snowman Cycling YouTube channel. And today's race, I've got a chaotic crit race from Cat C for you. And what I want to talk about today is racing etiquette. Is there such a thing when it comes to Zwift racing? And if there is what you see later on considered good form, bad form, or somewhere in the middle? So really excited to talk about this one with you and have a look at this race. So let's jump into this one and see what we can find. And this race is on one of my favourite courses on Zwift, the Bell Lap Crit course. So really short, really punchy, great for crit racing and short field racing. And as we all know, we've got the summer effect in effect on Zwift, which means there's fewer people available in these races. So it means you have to be really careful when it comes to these short field races of making sure that you're not letting any attacks like this one from S. Hart off the front get away, because if they do and they get a few second gap, it can be really difficult to get your way back onto the front of the race. So that means that we're going to have to be really alive, really alert, and keep on top of these little attacks and make sure if people decide to push off the front, like S. Hart likes to do, every time we hit a little bit of a rise like this one, we're going to have to make sure that we're following the pack and we're not letting that rider on the front get away. So probably using more energy than I like to use at this stage of the race, just to sort of bring back those attacks. And as you can see at this point, when it looks like it's going to be dragging everybody else back with me, I put in a bit of a surge just to get across to that rider on the front and not drag everybody else with me. Make sure that if they want to come, they've got to do a little bit of the work as well. So that becomes a little bit of a common theme, as we'll see later on. And I'm also taking this opportunity, as you know that I like to do, to check out the other riders that we've got here on Zwift Power and see what their power profiles are like and see who we need to be worried about. And as seems to be the norm these days, most of these riders aren't on Zwift Power, including our hero off the front who likes to keep attacking with that really weird cadence, stop-start. Not saying it's dodgy, but I am saying they're not on Zwift Power. And whenever anybody's not on Zwift Power, I'm immediately suspicious when they start doing weird things like this. And I can also see that S. Hart is a lightweight rider, so they're likely to be sort of in this category doing bigger than the normal category boundaries for power. So it's likely if they get a gap and TT their way on the front of that race, then I'm not going to be able to bring them back, and probably neither is anybody else in this race. So we're just going to have to be really careful to not let them get away. But as you can see, they've got a game plan and they put it into effect every single time we hit a rise. And I kind of respect that. Again, we're probably assuming that S. Hart, even though I can't see them on Zwift Power, probably doesn't have the best sprint in the world. So they know that their best bet to win this race is to try and get away, put in a few sneaky attacks, tire people out, and maybe at some point people are going to look at each other and they'll manage to get a break off the front that gets a gap. As we can see here, that leaves you very open for counters, as a bit too slow manages to counter, come through off the back, and actually forces S. Hart to be the one to have to chase. So I'm sat on their wheel. I'm going to let them do the bulk of the work here. If they're strong enough to attack off the front, they're strong enough to bridge up and take me with them. But I'm keeping a really close eye on the riders behind here. I can see that Ravindra has got a really good 20-minute power, but I'm most concerned in this race about WN, the rider off the front. As you can see there from those orange numbers, they just dropped Ravindra and they actually quit the race because they didn't want to be riding around on their own back there, which again is probably fair enough. But WN on Zwift Power has a really good 20-minute power of 3.9 watts per kilo. That's only my 5-minute power max at the minute. So they can do for 20 minutes what I can do for 5. Their 5-minute max is 4.9 watts per kilo. They're only a 50 kilo rider, which explains how they're able to do those sorts of numbers in C category. But they're also the rider in this pack with the best sprint, and that is what I am most concerned about. So with all the other riders in this group, the one I least want to be getting to the finish line with is WN. Everybody else, and we've probably got a really good chance at the sprint finish. So it's just a case of not letting them get away. But based on those numbers and their performance so far in this race, where they were quite far off the back and have taken it easy, I had a suspicion that they were keeping a little bit in reserve at this point. And that suspicion proved to be well-founded, as here we go, they decide to launch it off the front. And they managed to get a bit of a gap, force S. Hart to chase. And I know at this point, having looked at this guy's numbers, that I cannot afford to let them go up the road. If I do, it's simply game over and the race has gone away from me. So I have to use all of my energy here to make sure that I get onto their wheel. And if that takes everything I've got, then it just simply takes everything I've got. Luckily for me, it doesn't quite empty the tank. It hurts and it takes me into the red, but I'm able to get onto their wheel. And all of a sudden, we're looking in a really good position here because the riders behind us are off the back. However, as you can see, the pace comes down from the front group a little bit and a bit too slow manages to get back onto the front group. So really good job from them. We can see that S. Hart is just dangling 30, 40 meters off the back there. And I think that that's probably them out of the race at this point. We probably don't have to worry about them. But as as you can see, that was foolish of me because they've given it one more big effort. Not only have they come through, they've managed to get a gap, and we can see that WN was really not very happy about that and starts taking shots at them in the chat. But honestly, if you're working someone up to the point where they're having a go at you in the chat, then I think that's probably you're doing things correctly. Realistically, you want to be making your opponents feel like that. If they're happy with what you're doing, you're probably racing their race and doing things as they want. So I can't blame SH, and as we get to this point in the race, I'm not surprised to see that they once again decide to go off the front. But I'm thinking at this point, WN is really, really strong. We know this based off their 20-minute and 5-minute power on Zwift power along with their sprint. And every time there's been an attack like this, they've decided to ride whoever was in front of them for as long as they could until they make the decision that they have to go and that they're no longer going to be helped by the person ahead. So I elect to sort of dangle a little bit at this point, play a little bit of rope-a-dope, put on my best poker face, and see if we can convince WN to work for us. And them actually messaging in the chat to say things like great kind of told me that I was doing the right thing and that they were getting frustrated and knew, oh, okay, I'm going to have to bridge up and close this gap myself. So fortunately for him, I've managed to just tag onto his wheel there, sit just a few meters back to still give the illusion of really suffering. I've done enough work for them in this race, so it's time that they did a little bit for me. And they obviously read into SH there and sensed and detected weakness, and I think that they were right because they've ploughed through and they've managed to get a gap. SH does not immediately try to reconnect onto that group, which tells you that they are really, really suffering because otherwise you'd be straight on there. And all of a sudden, before we know it, we've got a 20-metre gap to the two riders behind. A bit too slow, probably was a little bit too slow to try and reconnect at that point. Otherwise, they may have made it. And at this point, I'm saying to myself, this is it. This is the move that's going to stick. He's countered SH really, really well. He's putting on the pressure here. And as we can see, when we're going over these rollers, WN is not letting up. They've decided that they've got that gap and they're just going to crack on with it at this point because there's only 5 kilometers left in the race. And before we know it, we've got a gap of 8 and 11 seconds to the riders behind. So this is a really effective move. It's very likely to stick. And that's where my question of bad etiquette kicks in. Is there such a thing as etiquette in Zwift racing? And what I mean by that is when you've got a gap like that and you're in a group, do you have a responsibility to pull within that group and help that group stay away and maintain the gap that they've got? That's obviously what you see in real life when riders get a break off the front and they're working together to keep away the peloton from behind. And obviously I do want to keep the riders behind away as best as I can. But also there are other things I have to factor in here, like my power versus this rider's power. And I know for a fact that they're stronger than me on the 20 minutes and 5 minutes. So what I'm doing here is I'm taking a very token turn. This is not my max power. This is me just sort of showing them that I'm on the front and that there's no need to attack me. We can work together if we want to. But in reality, I'm not working here. I'm not doing anything. And my pull stops there. And I do not come back for another pull. Because at this point, with 3 kilometers to go and 10 seconds over the chasers behind, to be honest, I don't care if they catch me or not. I don't think that they've got a good enough sprint to contest against either me or WN when it comes to the finish line. And therefore, I'm not going to go into the red here, give him a turn to keep away from the riders behind, so that then he has a better chance in the sprint. It just doesn't make sense. Especially not when I know that pretty much the only metric I can beat this rider on is a sprint. Why would I then share the workload and make life more difficult for myself than it has to be? If WN is the one that wants to stay away from these riders behind, then he's going to have to work for it. And as you can see on those rollers there, they were really trying to get rid of me before we got to the sprint finish. We know that with only 1.2 kilometers left in the race and 22 seconds to the riders behind, that we have got no chance of being caught unless we literally stop dead in the road. So at this point, we're essentially track standing against each other. You can see that they've stopped pulling at all. They've let me come through to the front, but I'm doing 2 watts per kilo. And at this point, I've done my job as best as I can. And I've got myself into the position that I wanted to be in at the start of the race. And that was into the final 500 meters with a chance of winning this sprint. So we elect to let WN come through. And I'm either going to let them start this early and come from behind, or I'm going to wait till about 200 meters out. I've got my power up ready, waiting to be deployed, and I can see that WN has deployed theirs, which means it's time to go. They're going to give us a lead out, and we launch it with everything that we've got, trying to hit it with max power, max watts, max revs, and we managed to come around. WN made a little bit of a mistake there. It looked like they stopped pedaling for a second to let me come through, but it's just not going to work if you do that to a sprinter that's going at full speed. And we managed to hold on for the win and get to use our absolutely terrible gun noise celebration.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man? Bro, I'm out, man.
So what do you think about that one, guys? Did I have a plan and I used that plan to perfection, or should I have worked with that rider? Was it really bad form to let them do all of the work to get us away and then to just sit on them from behind and out sprint them at the end? I definitely don't think that I'm going to be on their Christmas card list this year, but that's racing. In my opinion, you've got to look out for yourself, do what's right for you, even if some people would consider it bad form. And as we have a look at the average and normalised powers for that one, we can see the average power was 3.2 watts per kilo and the normalised power was 3.7 watts per kilo. So a bit of a difference there. So I hope you enjoyed that one, guys. Thank you as always for joining me. Make sure you like, comment, most importantly subscribe. Hope to catch you on the next one. And as always, race fast, ride hard, and remember that you are appreciated.